In this video, I'll share with you the #1 way to guarantee your e-commerce success with paid advertising this year. Now, if you're wondering who's this guy and how can he make such a bold claim, my name is Justin and I'm the founder at paidadvertising.com, and we've now worked and helped over 160 brands and clients spend over $9.6 million on ads a year. And I've seen my fair share of e-commerce businesses, some that failed, some that thrived, and others that kind of maintained throughout their entire lifetime. And I want to show you what I think is the main component of a successful brand when it comes to ads. So let's get straight into today's video. Now, let's first of all look at the organizational chart, if you want, or the departmental chart of an e-commerce business. So I split it mainly when it comes to revenue generating activities or kind of revenue generating factors. Pretty much the only thing that I haven't really laid out here would be like customer service and some of the like warehouse and back end stuff. Okay, but I'll very briefly touch on that today. Now, when it comes to making an e-commerce brand successful, I would divide that into kind of these two pillars that you have right here on screen. You have marketing and then you have website. Ignore the color code for a second. I'll talk about that in the next few minutes. But for now, let's just dive into all the pillars and things you must have in order to bring your brand to a successful stage, right? So when it comes to the website in itself, well, your website is composed, in my opinion, of these three sub points or departments, right? Where you would have someone or some people responsible for offer creation and testing, right? So either bundles or either just the way you label an offer in itself, or the way you kind of frame a promotion or the marketing calendar perhaps, or I'm gonna put all of that under the bracket of offers. Now you have CRO, which is conversion rate optimization. That is essentially, to me, general website design, general website improvements, general work involved in making the website convert at a higher rate, giving you more profits, giving you a higher AOV, right? I always kind of say this comes from my good friend Spencer, who actually is running a CRO agency, and he coined the term like Shopify health score, which is your AOV times conversion rate on your Shopify store, right? And he says that a brand should aim at 200 or more Shopify health score. So that means if your conversion rate is 2, right, 2%, and you have a $100 AOV, then you do 2 times 100, and now you're looking at a 200 Shopify health score. So you need to have a team that is dedicated to making your website look good, but also convert good. And then you'll have people helping you build landing pages, right? That is usually going to be a mix, if you want, of CRO and offers in themselves. So landing page would usually be specific to an offer and or product, and somebody would work to make it convert at a high rate for that specific offer and or product. Okay, so I'm kind of putting all of those under the website. So someone must be responsible for all of these things in order to guarantee conversions on a website, right? But now let's talk about how this links to marketing. So if you look into marketing right here, you've got those 4 core pillars according to, again, my experience. You would have paid social, paid search, organic, and retention. The 4 core things you want to focus on in order to market and propel your e-commerce brand forward. I'm obviously not going to talk about as much like traditional media, perhaps even expanding into retail and how that not only impacts the brand's presence, but also technically serves as marketing. I'm not going to go into that in this video, but those are points that I could have added here. So paid social in itself, what are the main platforms that you will want to take care of, right? You'll have Meta, TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest. They're kind of the top platforms, right? Meta, when it comes to Triple Well's survey for all of 2023's, it was, I believe, 66 or 67% of their total industry ad spend was put towards Meta, which just shows you like how indexed people are on Meta. Then you look at Google, it was about 25% or so of the industry's ad spend. So there's not a lot left. I think TikTok was about 3%, which was the 3rd biggest one. And then you had like 1 to 2% of the total industry's ad spend split across Snapchat, Pinterest, Bing, and any other, right? So even when it comes to these paid social platforms, you could kind of split those into 2 sub fields. So you have paid social, then you have channels. So now let's say we take Meta, then you have sometimes media buying only teams, and then you have creative teams. So again, 2 different fields within a single channel for paid social. Now let's take paid search for a second. It's usually going to be mainly driven by Google. You also have Bing. Now organic, it's going to be typically going to be like Instagram, Facebook page, or a Facebook group community that people build, TikTok or Pinterest. Then retention, you're going to have email, SMS, direct mail, and loyalty programs. Now, bear with me here and please stick with me throughout this entire video. I'm showing you how each department interacts with each other, and also what are the ultimate 3 ways or 3 scenarios on how you can delegate marketing in order to increase your chances at succeeding with your e-commerce brand. And also the kind of #1 fallacy I feel that brands fall prey to, either at low scale or at high scale. So we'll get to that by the end of this video. Now, when it comes to paid social, and the reason why I've also linked marketing with website, well, truth is, if you have a bad website, no matter how good you are on the marketing side, nobody's going to convert, right? If your offers aren't strong, if your website just isn't conversion optimized, if you don't have landing pages that are congruent with the messaging you talk about either in your ads and or organic and or retention based content, you're just not going to have conversion. You can do the best job here, but if this is not optimized, you won't have the results coming from marketing. The flip side is also true. You could have the best website in the world, but if your marketing doesn't do a good enough job at either driving traffic as a whole, so driving enough volume to the website, nobody's going to convert. And it's going to make your job much harder to optimize conversion rate or your website as a whole if you don't have statistical evidence, which can only be achieved with a volume of traffic coming from these sources. And on the second thing too, it's if you drive bad quality traffic, so the wrong people to the website, because your ads perhaps or the marketing material here is not congruent with what your web team has done on the website, then that too could create like a miscongruence between the two and end up just impacting the overall conversion rate. So these two are intertwined in many ways. One impacts the other. And same thing here. If you go one level down, well, paid social impacts paid search impacts paid social, paid search impacts organic impacts paid search, organic impacts retention impacts organic, retention impacts paid search impact retention, and then so on and so forth. I could keep going for hours here, but it's like they all impact one another. And those have all been proven through many different videos I've done on YouTube. But if you have an app like Triplewell as an example to analyze your e-commerce data, you'll usually see a positive correlation in sales between paid social and paid search. So typically, the more you spend on Meta or the more organic content you'll do on Instagram as an example, the more people will naturally be searching you up online, either with branded search term, right? Because they've been exposed now to your brand for the first time, or they haven't really taken note of your brand's name, but the product or something in the ad struck interest, and now they're searching for said product, right? It's still going to be like top of funnel, but it's like the initial interest, the initial touch point was enhanced by paid social or organic, okay? And that typically happens. You'll see a positive correlation on platforms like Triplewell. And typically we're always seeing it, right? There's a much stronger correlation between someone in our client pool succeeding at Meta ads or TikTok ads if they're already crushing it organically. Why? Because again, one impacts the other. People that see a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad will probably start scrolling through the organic profile, and if they see good stuff on there too, it increases social proof, it increases the buying decision, and just helps push someone over the edge, right? It's typically what's going to end up happening. Or if somebody sees a Meta ad and then they spend like a couple of seconds looking at the ad, then the algorithm is going to think, that person's interested. And then even if they don't look at your profile yet, Meta is going to start showing them your Instagram reels as an example organically. And then, what do you know? Now they start consuming more and more of your content and they're going to end up buying. So there's a very strong correlation between any of these right here, which is why it's important to have all of them dialed in. They all work together, right? It's like when brands say, I'm only going to crack my brand's like scale only with Facebook ads, and I'm not going to do email. I'm not going to do any email and SMS, right? I'm not going to do Google. I'm not going to do like any sort of website optimization. Then it's like, look, you only have one piece of the puzzle here. Can you do it? Maybe you can, but are you going to have a much better chance of doing it if you have like everything figured out together? Yes. Now, for small brands, we're going to get to that in a second. You'll have to add those and stack them up as building blocks. You probably don't have the money at least to go out there and hire out every single one of these things. What I'll tell you is the following: no matter how good someone is at any of those points, because typically the truth is you don't have a lot of entities. I'm not saying that they don't exist, because they do exist, right? There's agencies that take care of every platform on paid social. There's agencies that take care of everything on paid search, everything organic. But typically the best agencies will be more specialist. They'll be specialists at Meta or specialists at TikTok. Some even to this day or media buying specialists. Others are more creative specialists. Now, mostly now, I've said it many times also out there, but creative is the new targeting. So you'll usually find media buying and creatives to come together, but there still are agencies that are only doing media buying and some that are only doing creatives. I'm not saying that it's a good or a bad thing. I'm saying what it is out there. So then you have specialists of a platform that is a subcategory of paid social, that is a subcategory of marketing, that it starts to be very narrowed down at this point. And now, doing a side tangent real quick, Meta, right? And I'm saying Meta because why? We take care of Meta and TikTok and Google as a paid ads agency. Primarily Meta though, like 60 to 70% of our ad spend comes to Meta. Let's follow up this little line that I have driven right here, okay? So what does our process look like for creating Meta ads? It looks like that. We have a very thorough research process. Then once we've gone through this entire research process, we position our ads. So making sure that they're positioned to the right awareness of the audience. Then we go through copywriting, script writing, picking a creators if this is going to be UGC, or going straight to editing if this is going to be like a static or a video ad. And then from there, we track our performance, right? It's like, what was the headline? What was the copy of this ad? What was the desire? What was the persona? What was the benefit of this ad? What was the positioning of this ad? And honestly, with a thorough process like we have for creating high converting Facebook or TikTok ad creatives, it's impossible to fail with the process. I am telling you, I know for a fact that if and when we follow this process, there is no account for which we have not increased results. We will be increasing results when it comes to click-through rate, when it comes to traffic driven, when it comes to also sales, when it comes to profitability. But if this process, having gone through multiple waves of iterations, now you've gone through that process for months on end of, we're going through this, we know our research is strong, we know our creatives are backed by data, we know they're backed by what we found in the audience that works, we know that our new creatives are backed by iterations based on the winning variables we've identified. If this is not satisfactory, right? Meaning even with that, either the client or either the brand in itself is like, yo, we're still not profitable, or like, hey, look, this is still not where we need to be for us to make money, I can confidently say the ad process is not the problem. And this is part of the reason why I'm making this video, to show that there is so many things at play together that impacts just this or just that right here. And now I'll play devil's advocate probably for another 10 to 15 minutes here, which is, okay, so then Justin, are you telling me that I should not hire someone to just do this because it's not going to have a big enough impact on the business because there's so many other things outside of their control, therefore I should hire someone that controls more of these variables? Well, let's explore this thought, right? What are the 3 company structure scenarios that you could have to grow your e-commerce brand? Well, let's go through them all. Scenario 1, you do it all in-house, okay? Now, the minimum I'm gonna highlight here is the pink platforms, okay? I've highlighted platforms in pink right here, which in my opinion, this is the absolute minimum that you must hire or do in order to like have a fair chance of succeeding, right? Especially nowadays in 2024, at the time we're recording this video, it's like Meta and TikTok have to be pretty dialed in. They're like the top 2 paid social channels. Google is like pretty much the only one that you can do on the paid search side. Organic, it's all Instagram and TikTok. Facebook doesn't really push you organically. Instagram Reels and TikToks push you organically. There's a lot of reach through these platforms. And retention wise, you don't really need to dive into direct mail. You don't really need to go loyalty programs. Email and SMS are pretty much the must. Okay, let's explore that for a second. I've taken salary averages from Glassdoor and Indeed, okay, in the US. Now, if you tell me, Justin, can I not just hire this out overseas? You could. Now, getting into the quality of the talent, getting into vetting that talent is another story. For the sake of this video, I'll talk about local talent in the US. Let's get through it. Well, first of all, you need someone on your side that is going to oversee all of this. No matter you running this structure, this marketing department internally or externally, you need a CMO. Because going back right here, someone needs to be the link, right? The person that is marketing, if I put that in yellow right here, somebody needs to be the head. Somebody needs to be managing and overseeing all of that, or else where is the congruence here? Everyone is going to be doing their own thing in a little silo and not be aware of whatever is happening in each of these other departments. So you need a head or a brain or a link or the glue between all of these departments. Okay, let's keep going. So a CMO's average yearly salary in the US is about $148,000. And again, I was incredibly conservative. I've checked multiple websites, and for every single one of these roles right here, many websites were much higher than that. And this is usually like media buyers. We're talking about junior to an average media buyer. We're not talking about a senior media buyer, right? That's local talent from the US. $148,000 for a CMO. If you're going to run paid social with the platforms, so Facebook and TikTok, you're going to need 1 media buyer, 1 creative strategist, and probably 2 editors to power your app. Okay, so here's the salaries on average for these. Now, paid search, you're probably going to need 1 media buyer to handle all of your paid search needs. Okay, great. Once again, about $49,000 right here. When it comes to making your organic content work, you'll probably need 1 researcher, somebody to research on trends, ideate new content, almost like a creative strategist if you want. You'll need ideally 3 content creators, right? People that are faces of your brand internally. Either you're going to be the one doing it yourself as a founder, which I don't necessarily think that at scale it's the best idea, or you'll need 2 to 3 content creators. Why 2 to 3 and why not just 1? Well, what if this person leaves? You don't want to have your entire face of your brand in one person's hands. You want to have a couple people creating content for you internally. That's why most accounts you see out there from big brands have more than 1 face that runs the accounts of that brand to hedge their risk in case one of them leaves. So 2 to 3 content creators. Okay, now you'll probably also need again 2 editors to edit these organic posts. Now, let's keep going. Retention. You'll need 1 copywriter, 1 designer, and 1 strategist. Usually that strategist is going to be the one uploading new campaigns on Klaviyo, pulling out the stats from what they're seeing on Klaviyo and being able to tell, hey, copywriter, I need more of this, or hey, designer, I need you to redo that. So total yearly salaries here is $896,000. You're looking at almost $1 million in payroll. And that is just for marketing. I have not even touched website at this point. I'm not even like, nobody's managing your website. Nobody's building you landing pages at this point. $896,000, right? For $74,000 monthly. Okay, so that's scenario number one, you do it all in-house. Scenario number two, you work with one agency. Now, by the way, I'm going to take the example here of a big agency like Common Thread Collective or 4Media Marketing or any of these big agencies in the e-commerce space. No shame to these agencies at all. Far from that, they're amazing. I love every single one of them. And I've audited accounts from most of these big agencies in the past before, and I've seen amazing stuff. But I'm simply talking about the model and how it works in itself. So let's keep going. Now, how much are we talking to hire everything out, right? So an agency like this is going to make the entire strategy. It's going to give you the data. It's going to make you, help you with finances. It's going to help you do paid social. It's going to help you do paid search. It's going to help you do a website. Every single one of these things, we're talking bare minimum, depending on how many blocks you end up taking from them. If you want to have all of it, you're probably going to look closer to like $40,000 to $50,000 a month. Plus, add to that, once again, somebody from your end needs to be coordinating with the said agency all the time. If you don't want to be the one doing it yourself as a CEO, you need a CMO to do it. What is a CEO's average monthly salary? Well, from what we talked about earlier, it's about $12,000 to $15,000 a month. Okay, so now you're talking about, if you want to hire all of it out, you're talking about 60 to 65 grand a month. Well, at this point, right, $65,000 roughly a month times 12, $780,000. Slightly cheaper, right? Slightly cheaper than outsourcing all of it with a local team. Okay, let's keep going. Now, assuming the average e-commerce brand makes 10% net profit at the end of the month, okay? I've checked various sources online. Most of them say the average is about net. I've checked my client pool too. The best brands usually in our client pool are going to be doing about 20, maybe 25% net margin. Incredibly rare. The lower brands are going to be making anywhere between like 4 to 10% profit. 10% is about an average, okay? So for a business to kind of break even and be able to afford said services, we're talking a minimum of $200,000 to $500,000 in monthly revenue, $1 million to $6 million. So the question to ask yourself is, who wants to build a $2.4 million to $6 million a year business to not pocket any of its money? And that's minimum, right? A lot of these businesses are probably going to have to make even more money in order to be able to like pay themselves a little something, right? So no one goes to build a business to not pocket all of its money. So that is like bare minimum how much a brand needs to make to afford said agency. And that's usually what I've seen. Most of these big agencies, the brands I've audited, the brand accounts I've audited working with them are making around that. They're making usually high 7 or low 8-figure businesses. Some will even make multi 8-figure that are working with these agencies. So again, the answer is no one. No one wants to not pocket any of this money. So who can afford these services? There's 3 types. Funded businesses, so they've got the money to spend and they don't want to do any of it themselves. Bootstrap, high 7-figure or low 8-figure businesses. So they're now at a point where it makes sense to outsource most of that marketing. And I'll go into something in a second, okay? I'll play devil's advocate once again. Businesses going for a big exit over cash flow. But let's talk about these 2 things for a second. First of all, if you bootstrap your way to high 7, low 8-figure, it must mean that you're doing something right. And if you're doing something right, do you really need to shill out 50 grand a month to hire an agency to suddenly outsource all of your marketing at once? Probably not, because you've already figured your way out to high 7, low 8-figure. So you might work with them for part of their services. So I'm like dismantling the model right now of hiring one agency to do all of it, okay? And not Common Thread Collective specifically. I do want to make that point right here. I'm not attacking the agency, just the model of one agency for all of it is all I'm talking about here. Now, businesses going for a big exit over cash flow. If you say, well, Justin, I don't care about not pocketing any of my money. I do kind of want to break even because I do want to exit. Well, first of all, if you don't have any EBITDA, your exit's going to be null. You're not really going to be able to exit anything. Now, second of all, no investor will like a business built off of the back of one external agency. This is a huge variable. What if the agency goes out of business? What if the agency suddenly negotiates all their rates up and you can't afford them anymore? What if the agency decides to change their processes and suddenly they don't work anymore? It's a huge risk to have everything with one external entity, right? So I'll talk about that in a second, the multiple agencies route. And the truth is, even if you hire one agency, and this is like the point I'm trying to make here, you're still not in control of product. Meaning, going back to what we had at the top right here, okay? This is one category I haven't shown yet. It's product. Because look, going back to how all of these work with each other, if your website isn't good, ads or marketing isn't going to convert. If your marketing isn't sending enough people or the right quality of people, website's not going to work. But at the end of the day, it all starts with the product. If your product is not good, well, anybody landing on the website won't convert. You could have the highest conversion rate, like optimization tips and tricks and landing pages that are congruent with your ads, but if nobody wants the product, then nobody's going to convert. And same thing with ads. You would have the best marketing, the best research process, the best content creators, the best agencies or team. If you're marketing a bad product, it's going to affect your ads. Like, you're not going to have as high of a click-through rate. You're not going to have as high as a conversion rate. All metrics are going to go down because nobody wants the product. So product is the Trojan horse in this equation. It affects everything. So even if you outsource all of this to one external agency, right? Then we go back to you cannot outsource the product. This has an invisible hand waiting on every single component of the business. It plays a huge role in every component of the business. I'm gonna go as far to say you can replace product for fashion businesses by brand, because the product isn't really what sells itself. The brand does. The brand vision, the brand feel. Now, can you really outsource the entire brand as a fashion business to one agency? Look, even if the agency in question can take care of organic, how are you gonna make sure that they don't dismantle the brand image? How can you remain in control of the brand image? What makes your brand valuable if all of it is outsourced? Well, going back to that right here, hiring one agency, this is the kind of downfall of that model. Because like if you see it from both perspectives, as the agency, why would you, even for 20, 40, 50, 60 grand a month of a retainer? First of all, you cannot realistically charge someone more than 50 or 60 grand a month as a retainer. No brand in their right mind is gonna look at you and be like, yeah, that's a justifiable expense on my P&L. No, they're gonna say, fuck it, I'm gonna bring it in-house. Why? You've seen the difference earlier. We're talking like what? You know, even if you hire all the talent, even if you hire 100% of your talent locally in the US, you're talking about like 100 grand more a year. I'd rather have, you know, paying an extra 6-figure a year in payroll to have everything in-house and have full control over the entire business than outsource all of it to an agency, right? So that doesn't really make sense from a brand perspective. Now, let's see it from an agency perspective. Even if you're making 50, 60 grand a month, like you're still always going to have your efforts slowed down by the brand. Like if the owner isn't doing like what they need to be doing with the product, if they're not coming out with the right variations, if they're not fixing their finances in the background, if they're not negotiating the right rates with their suppliers, if that vision is not there, no matter how much control you have as an agency, going back to that at the top, you could be, hey, we're a paid social, paid search, and retention agency. You could be doing email, SMS, ads, Google for a business. You still don't have everything under control. Product is what is out of your hands, which arguably is the most important part of an e-commerce business. So why would you, as an agency, want to become full service instead of building your own in-house brands? Which is why 99% of big agencies are building their own internal brands, because every single one of them are realizing like, yo, I'm out of control with all of these clients. They're erratic, they're making like dumb decisions, and I can't control all of their success, even though I'm doing this, and that right. So they just revert to becoming brand owners. You hear that all the time. Big agencies that really scaled up, they became full service, and next thing you know, they're not an agency anymore, they're incubating brands because they realize, hey, it's much more profitable for us to do that. And if like we have ownership and equity now in all of these businesses, and when we sell them, we like have everything is done in-house. So like there's you know, it's like a all-in-one package that we sell to these investors. It's like, it makes so much more sense for an agency to want to start incubating brands at a specific scale. And on the flip side, it does not make sense for brands to work with one big agency at a specific scale. So now let's talk about what happens if you hire multiple agencies. Now I'm going to be using my own personal experience for retainer estimates. Okay. Once again, we're going to talk about minimum, the pink platforms. I'm not even going to talk about like CRO or any of that sort. CMO is going to be needed still in this case. Why? Once again, you need glue. Okay. If you have a paid social agency, a paid search agency, and they don't speak to each other, then you need someone to make the link between those two. Okay. So let's keep going. Meta plus TikTok agency with creatives is probably going to run you up for about $6,500 a month. Paid search, you're probably going to be able to get away with someone doing it for you for $3 grand a month. Organic, if somebody sources content creators, enters your content posting, you'll probably be able to get away with about $8 grand a month. Email plus SMS, about another 6.5K a month. Total yearly, $436,000. Total monthly, $36,000. This here, the math here is why most brands default to working with multiple agencies, which there's no problem with that because it's easier to build as you grow, right? It's less expensive upfront for you to work with multiple agencies, and it's cheaper to slowly add agencies than it is to slowly build an in-house team. Definitely, right? There are costs with an agency that you just don't have with an internal team. You don't have to deal with the cost of HR. You don't have to deal with the cost of, man, this team member is leaving, I need to replace them, or like I need to find someone else new ASAP. No, you're outsourcing management, hiring, and basically also part of the pricing. Like it's a discounted price because these agencies can work with multiple clients. And it's also more attractive to investors because there's less risk than working with one big agency. The risk is more diluted. But ultimately speaking, what's going to be even more so attractive to said investors is either if somebody's going to be working with multiple agencies or if they're going to own the entire process in-house, because that means they've perfected the process. They know how to acquire themselves, they know how to retain themselves, they know how to product development works by themselves, they know organic. So it's like, okay, this brand has cracked everything. It's an all-in-one package once again. So what is the overarching point of this video? What I'm trying to make right here is one of the number one things I see e-commerce businesses doing wrong, either if they're just starting out or they're trying to scale, is they are trying to hire out for everything. And they either fall prey to one of two things. Number one, they don't have a CMO and they're trying to have different agencies to handle everything. And now what ends up happening is there's no cohesiveness across every department of the business. So then that goes south. Or they'll work with one big agency, but then they're stuck with one partner where all their eggs are within one basket and it doesn't make the brand attractive to anyone and costs stack up. Or they'll try and build a team in-house too soon, which eats through costs and margins, which these guys, another thing that I haven't discussed, is like these people are only working on your account, which has its pros and cons. Pros, all their time and attention is spent on you. Great. Cons, well, these people are not seeing what is going on in the space. They're not seeing 10, 15, 20 other ad accounts in a day where they can spot trends and add these learnings to your business. So how can you make sure that you're going to be bringing on talent that is really going to help you elevate your business? Well, I can tell you that for a fact. A $49,000 a year media bar probably is not going to be elevating your business. That's why I told you earlier, every single one of these salaries right here is like an average. Well, an average employee probably doesn't have the experience you need to really help take you further. So you need a really strong CMO or yourself to be super good in marketing to make an in-house team happen. So now I think I sound like doomsday, you know, in this video. It's like, well, there's no real way to guarantee, you know, e-commerce success, or like everything you're going to do is going to fail. No, the lessons I need you to take from this video is be careful about the way you're going to structure your company. That's the first thing. Second, don't fall prey to the fact that like you believe everything can either be hired out or you believe everything can be taken in-house. There is a fourth scenario, which is a mix of, in my opinion, these two right here. You're going to have part in-house, part outsourced. That probably is the healthiest scenario because you outsource for expertise that you just simply cannot afford to have in-house, or you complement the gaps that your in-house team lacks by hiring experts in their field as agencies. And that is probably going to be the ultimate play. So you need to stack scenario 3 and scenario 1 together as you grow as a business. Personally, I would never go with scenario 1 and have just one agency do all of it. And same thing from an agency perspective. If an agency becomes full service, then once again, it's like there's always that, why can't I scale? Why is this not working? Well, it's because of this and that. That's why those are the same color, by the way. Product has a direct correlation to offer. You can't create offers based on products that you don't have. Like offers are related to products that you have. So offers and products are together. No agency has full control over those. And if they do, they will want equity, is where I'm going to in this video. No agency is going to be incentivized without equity to take care of every single one of these things. So going back to the overarching question, how do you guarantee e-commerce ad success? Through ownership, internal and external ownership. Create ownership amongst these silos, meaning have an agency, once again, to take care of, let's say, this silo or this one, which you delegate ownership over that. But you need a brain internally to create cohesiveness around that. That CMO brain, I label that as a CMO, but I'll give you an example, right? If I move this card here and I say, this is a CMO, right? And I say, well, at the top, you have CEO, which is near here. Well, that person, by the way, I can just put these two cards in the same color because you are a startup. And let's just say I am running an e-commerce brand. Well, Justin is the CEO and he also is the CMO. You will wear many hats when you start a business. That is normal, but you need someone to keep these people accountable, to think about a marketing calendar, to develop the product, to, or at least relay the information of what the product development team is working on, to ideate offers, to create cohesiveness between ads and, you know, website, to think, hey guys, hey ad team, here's what's happening with the website team right now. They're doing all of these changes. Can you guys give us feedback on what you need to happen on the website based on what you see on the ads? Hey website team, can you connect with my ad team and basically try and see with them like what angles is working best on the ads front so that you can create landing pages according to that. Hey retention team, connect with the paid social team and paid search teams to make sure that you know what is like what needs to be the content in the emails. Someone internally needs to be that glue. And the entire point I'm going to at the end of this video, that glue is usually what's missing. And this is where brands go wrong. They either, like the CEO lacks the time to really be that glue, and that's okay because again, usually it's like, how can I say, it's they're at a point where everything is just demanding so much of their attention and they just can't afford giving time to all of these departments. And then they'll either hire out one agency, which as you've seen, it just doesn't lead to somewhere good, or they'll think, well, I'll try and get it in-house so we'll have more control, thinking that they'll they'll have more control, but they hire subpar talent that only sees their account, has absolutely no industry knowledge or expertise, and it's like they actually, it just worsens the results because they have more cost with a subpar team, or they just float. And that's where most brands end up dying. They'll have different agencies that are all very competent at what they do, but nobody talks to each other. There's no cohesiveness between each of these departments, and they all kind of float. It's like there's, you know, paid social isn't really related to what's happening on paid search, which isn't really related what we're seeing on the website, which retention doesn't really follow either what any of these guys are doing. Nobody knows the angles that everybody is attacking. Nobody knows the product that everyone is advertising. And then you find yourself in a plateau. Fix that glue. Either get yourself a CMO, or either yourself make sure that you are a marketing knowledgeable founder. I think this is the #1 skill, or the #1 thing I see in a successful e-commerce business nowadays is you either have a marketing based founder, or the founder of the brand really knows their shit marketing wise, or you'll have a accounting or an economics based founder, which they're so good with the numbers that they're able to give very realistic aims and KPIs to all their teams, keeping them accountable to numbers. So either if you're good marketing wise, or if you're good number wise, you'll make a great CEO for an e-commerce business. And if you don't have that, find yourself a strong CMO that can help you do that. So this was a very high level video, but I hope you've enjoyed it. This is more targeted to those brands already making 100K a month or more, kind of seeing like, yo, how do I get past that? How do I keep growing? Honestly, you have to figure out the plan of action when it comes to creating that glue between all of your departments. And finalizing my point on the founder not having the marketing or the economics knowledge, there's too much like emotion involved in the growth process of the business. It's not dialed in enough. Like, going back a step, if someone knows the unit economics for every single SKU in the business, they can therefore give very accurate KPIs to every single department. What those departments be handled in-house or externally, the KPIs can be very accurate. So then now you have teams that know exactly what to aim for, which their North Star is becoming clear. And it's also much easier now for you to look at them and be like, all right, are they performing or not? So let me benchmark them against the KPI. Now, you also need to have someone who can look at the interactions between every single one of these teams together. Because if I look at my Facebook team and they're not within KPI, but then I look at my organic and organic is failing, and I know that based on my trends, whenever organic is up, so is Facebook, then instead of just firing the Facebook team, I'm gonna be able to be like, yo, organic, you need to pick things up because right now what you're doing isn't helping Facebook. And then I can then therefore more logically make decisions that impact that, like I understand the impact that each of my decisions have on every other department or component of my e-commerce business. So that's what I mean by the glue. You need someone to make that link between everyone. And that someone for the logic explained in this video just simply cannot be one agency. It just does not make sense to have everything delegated to one entity. It makes sense to have ownership over that quote unquote glue internally. And you need to find your equivalent of that glue on your side with your brand. And that glue, would that be yourself as a founder? Get yourself to be more marketing knowledgeable. Get yourself to be more financially smart. I wholeheartedly recommend it to every single e-commerce founder watching this video to become that glue themselves first, because it'll be much easier to then quote unquote delegate that glue to a CMO or a CEO down the line. To educate yourself when it comes to marketing and when it comes to unit economics and the cohesiveness of every department, and make them speak to each other. I love it when clients, as an example, if we handle Meta and TikTok for them, they're gonna put us in a chat with their Google Ads agency, or they're gonna put us in a chat with their landing page team, and then we're gonna be able to speak to them and just collaborate on the success of the business. Much more cohesive, much better. So again, find your glue. That is your North Star after this video. Now, if you are an e-commerce business owner or an info product owner wanting to work with a paid ads partner on Meta, Google, and or TikTok, click the link down below and book in a call to speak with our team today at paidadvertising.com. On that note, gonna wish you an amazing day. Check out other videos on the channel for some more useful marketing tips, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.